Hi there. So one of the things that I see quite a lot on social media are tenants asking questions with regards to the notice they have to give. Now we all know that landlords have to give 2 months notice in line with section 21, for example. But where do tenants stand when it comes to give notice, and how do we as landlords and agents understand what their liability is? So first of all, let's look at a fixed term AST, assured short hold tenancy. Depending on whether it's a 6-month or a 12-month tenancy, the tenants are usually locked into that. So 6 months tenancy, they wouldn't really be able to leave until the end of the fixed term. So what does that mean? That means that tenants don't actually have to give any notice if they want to leave on the day their fixed term comes to an end. It's great if they give you notice, but they don't legally have to. Now, if it's 6 months, that's not too bad. They move out on the last day of the 6 months, then you can relet the property. If it's a 12-month tenancy, you may have what's called a break clause in your tenancy agreement. This allows you, the landlord, and the tenant to break the 12-month clause at any point that you wish, depending on how the break clause is written. Most break clauses state that either side can give 2 months notice after a certain period, and that's usually month 4, because that's when a landlord can give notice. So you'd activate a break clause on month 4 for it to take effect at month 6, and that's when the tenant would be moving out if they are giving their notice. If they don't give their notice, then it's very likely that is kind of missed the break clause window. They'll be tied in until the end of the contract. And again, they don't have to give any notice if they are leaving on the last day of their fixed term. Now, once it goes into periodic, this is where it all starts to get a little bit confusing. So a periodic tenancy is nothing more than an extension of the fixed term that the tenants had. So clauses will just carry on as normal as long as you've got a contractual periodic tenancy. And I'll come on to the differences between contractual and statutory in a moment. So with contractual periodics, a tenant would be giving a month's notice. So when you have a periodic tenancy, it means your rent is due in a period, and a period is usually a month. So they pay on the 28th of every month. Your period is a month. So all the tenants need to do is give 1 month's notice for that period, and then they can vacate. So like I say, if your rent is due on the 28th of the month, you'd be giving notice to ensure that you vacate on the 27th of the following month. This is really important because a lot of people think it's the 28th to the 28th, and it's not. The 28th signifies the start of a new rental period. So you need to understand that your rental period finishes the day before your rent is due. So if you then stay on, so for example, like I say, your rent due date is the 28th, you've given notice to vacate 28th of the following month, you're actually into a new rental period. So technically, you need to give another 1 month's notice to vacate the property on the 27th of the following month. Now, I do know some letting agents stick to this religiously, and if a tenant stays over by 1 day or has got their dates a little wrong, they try and commit the tenant to paying another full month's rent, which isn't very fair, especially if notice has been given and the dates have just been a little confused. So the difference between a statutory periodic and a contractual periodic means the original fixed term had to have a clause in there that stated this tenancy will run on to a periodic tenancy once the fixed term comes to an end. If you don't have that, then your tenancy will automatically turn into a statutory periodic tenancy. What that means is, rather than relying on the clauses that were outlined in the fixed term, your tenancy, the new periodic, will actually just be under statute law, which may give you a slightly less clauses to work with, but it certainly won't give you any less security of tenure, and certainly won't change the way notice is given. The only way the notice can change is on a contractual periodic if it states that the tenants will give 2 months notice as opposed to 1 month's notice, whereas with a statutory periodic, you're under nothing more than statute law, where the tenants only need to give 1 month's notice. So just to recap, so it's important, fixed term and periodic tenancies, tenants do not need to give notice to end a fixed term on its natural end date, but they do need to give 1 month's notice in line with their rent due date to end the date before their next rent is due. Any questions, please pop them in the comments and I'll do all I can to answer them for you.